Ladies and gentlemen, Behind the Line proudly presents to you another exciting edition of The Woke! Turning on The Woke! This episode is brought to you by the Rainbow Warriors. Have you been betrayed by your own staff? Have you satisfied the standards of diversity by hiring a staff full of identifiers belonging to marginalized groups, and they showed their appreciation by publicly humiliating you? If you're tired of your staff destroying your career, the experts at Rainbow Warriors are here. Rainbow Warriors is a recruiting service to ensure your staff meets the stringent standards of diversity. From blue-haired Blair to freshly shaved Claire, from Tran Dan to Fran the All-American Man, Rainbow Warriors is your go-to source for highly trained identifiers who are skilled at cashing checks without providing production. Plant your flag today by visiting rainbowwarriors.com. You know, there is an old quote, I believe it's from Maya Angelou. The great Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. For some reason, the mainstream media seems to have a hard time understanding this concept. The media, they will relentlessly defend people who don't deserve to be defended. For example, that doofus running for mayor in New York City, Zorro Mamdani, the dude has publicly admitted that he is a Shia Muslim. He has publicly admitted that he's a 12er, which means he believes it's his responsibility to hasten the return of the 12th Imam. He wants government-controlled grocery stores. He's publicly admitted that he wants to tax white neighborhoods. He wants to provide welfare programs to marginalized groups. I want to live in a city where all my subjects are equally miserable. If Zorro becomes mayor of New York City, the city will be destroyed. Rich people aren't going to allow you to confiscate their wealth and give it to some 30-year-old who's applying for Social Security because he has migraines. You know what rich people and upper middle class people, you know what they're going to do with their money? They're going to take their money with them when they get the hell out of New York City. Zorro has shown you exactly who he is. To his credit, he's not bashful about his insanity, but for some reason, the media continues to worship him. Oh, Zorro, please take away all my money and give it to the bums. There's another maniac that is worshipped by the mainstream media. Her name is Jasmine Crockett, or as her family prefers to call her, Jazz. Now, notice I did not say friends and family because, as you're about to find out, Jazz doesn't have any friends. For months, Jazz Crockett has shown us exactly who she is. She's vile, she's maniacal, she's got a severe case. Matter of fact, she has one of the strongest cases of stage 4 OMB, Orange Man Bad. She's got one of the strongest cases I have ever seen. Her diagnosis of OMB, it's even worse than the Yentas on The View. The only cases I have seen that are worse than Jazz Crockett are Rose O'Donnell and Keith Olbermann. Katie Pooh! Although the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge the vile behavior of Jazz Crockett, the people closest to her have. Her staffers spoke with the New York Post, and they provided plenty of detail on what it's like to work with the self-proclaimed superstar. As it turns out, Jazz has something in common with cackling Cam Harris. No one, and I mean no one in Washington, D.C. is willing to work for her. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel's in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about the Trumper potentially investigating the WNBA dump over their unfair treatment of Caitlin Clark. A condensed version of that video is also available on TikTok. For those that don't know, Uncle KC recently expanded to TikTok. If you want to help me get monetized over on TikTok, the link is in the description below. As always, I appreciate your support. Before we go any further, allow me to introduce you to Jas Crockett, just in case you don't know who she is. Throughout the year, Jas has presented herself as one of the biggest stars in the mainstream media, even though she's supposed to be working in Congress. Sometimes what we see from people on TV can be an exaggerated version of themselves. When people get on camera, they have a tendency to perform. They have a tendency to say things that they wouldn't say in person. Hell, most of the shit we see on CNN, MSNBC, most of that is 100% inauthentic. But to her credit, Jas Crockett is authentic. Based on the reports from her staffers, the Jas Crockett that we see on television, it might actually be a toned down version. In real life, she is much, much worse. Check out some of the highlights for yourself.
I am tired of the white tears backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists.
Congresswoman, will you condone violence at the test?
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching.
Isn't she great? Can you imagine how thrilled mom would be if you introduced Jas as your fiance? Remember in high school, and every high school had one, there was the beautiful girl in high school who knew she was beautiful, yet for some reason, she was always single. You couldn't quite figure out why until you actually got to know her. And once you got to know her, she literally talked herself into being the ugly duckling. On the surface, Jas Crockett is a beautiful woman, but my God, when she starts running that yapper, she immediately becomes unattractive. Uncle KC isn't the only one who sees it. Those closest to Jas Crockett, they can't stand her. Headline at the New York Post: Jasmine Crockett is a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes her own staff. The New York Post spoke with several people who work with Jasmine Crockett, work for Jasmine Crockett. According to the Post, most of these staffers, they belong to what Jas Crockett would describe as marginalized groups. Some have rainbow flags in their front yard and live in the LGBT community. Others have BLM flags in their front yard. Some of the staffers are black women who you would think would be appreciated by Jas Crockett. According to her own staff, Jasmine Crockett is an absolute nightmare. For starters, she never shows up to work. Most of the week, Jas claims to be working from home. However, if her staffers inform her that cameras are going to be around, Jas Crockett instantly shows up to work. Now, of course, she doesn't drive herself. She's way too big of a star for that. Unfortunately, MSNBC, they gave Joy Reid's old broom to the janitor. Luckily, though, since she is a member of Congress, transportation to and from work is provided by your tax dollars. Now, most in Congress, they'll try to be responsible. They'll have their staffers pick them up in their own personal vehicles. Not Jas Crockett. She demands to be picked up in an Escalade, and her staff, they're expected to be waiting on her arrival outside of the vehicle so they can open up the door for her. According to her staff, Jasmine Crockett really has no interest in representing her constituents in Texas. No shit. Now, in her defense, Jazz really doesn't have time to represent the interest of her constituents because she's busy trying to go viral on social media. Think about it. Jazz Crockett has been in Congress over 2 years now. Name one major accomplishment. Name one piece of legislation that she has sponsored. Name one thing, just one, that Jasmine Crockett has done for the people of Texas. The only time she shows up to work on Capitol Hill is to complain about the Trumper. Her obsession with the Trumper has gotten so out of control, hearings on Capitol Hill have to be paused just to get back on track. They'll be talking about the congressional budget, and Jazz Crockett, she'll start complaining about an episode of The Apprentice from 15 years ago. Last summer, Jazz Crockett insulted Marjorie Taylor Greene by claiming she has bleached blonde hair and a bad-built butch body. The LGBT on her staff, they were offended by her remarks. Now, keep in mind, Jazz is supposedly a representative of the identifiers. She is supposedly in the party of tolerance and acceptance, inclusion. The LGBT members on her staff, they confronted her and addressed Jazz Crockett with their concerns. Jazz Crockett told him, "What I said is not offensive, and you're stupid if you think so." What a lovely boss. Wouldn't you want to work for someone like that? According to the New York Post, Jazz Crockett is so vile with her own staffers, some of them break down in tears. One of her aides, which was a young black woman, she was fired abruptly for no reason. Recently, Jazz Crockett shared a job opening on her staff with a large group of black Democratic women. If I had to guess, it was probably the old job of the young black woman that Jazz Crockett just fired. The job opening, it was posted. Now, this was an opportunity for a young black woman to get valuable experience working for a member of Congress. Guess how many black women applied? 0. Guess how many Hispanic women applied? 0. Guess how many women applied? 0. Guess how many men pretending to be women applied? 0. No one wants to work for Jazz Crockett, just like no one wanted to work for cackling Cam Harris. How'd that work out for Cam? If someone treats her own staff this way, if Jazz Crockett treats those closest to her like shit, how do you think she treats her constituents? How much appreciation do you think she has for the people who voted for her? This is not my opinion. This is not hyperbole. This ain't speculation. These complaints, they are coming directly from people who work with Jazz Crockett every day. Why in the hell would anyone vote for Jazz Crockett? She doesn't care about you. Her only interest is her own self-interest. The only thing Jazz Crockett cares about is being a star. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.